Welcome to Talk Tuesday, everyone, a series that is dedicated to empowering youth and families. This series is being brought to you by Steps Foundation, Inc., where advocacy meets education for the betterment of young minds. Each month, we explore meaningful topics designed to inspire growth, inspire creativity, and equip our listeners with the tools that they need to thrive. I'm Abigail Ellis, your host and executive director here at Steps Foundation, Inc. And this month, we're diving into something that shapes our growth more than we realize, but it isn't always easy to navigate, and that is feedback. So, real quick, we're going to be honest, right? Feedback can make us feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it motivates us, but sometimes it really does sting. And sometimes it challenges the way that we see ourselves. But here's the truth: feedback isn't meant to break us, it's meant to build us. When we learn how to receive feedback without shutting down and how to give feedback without tearing someone else down, we unlock one of the most powerful life skills that we can have. Feedback helps us to improve our grades, strengthen our relationships, develop leadership skills, and grow in confidence. From teachers and coaches to friends and family, feedback will show up everywhere we are. So this month, we're going to continue to explore how to recognize constructive feedback, respond instead of react, reflect with intention, and communicate with respect. Because when it's handled the right way, feedback becomes fuel, not failure. So whether you're learning how to take constructive criticism without taking it personally, or figuring out how to give honest input with kindness, this is your space to grow. Together, we're building a culture where growth is normal, reflection is powerful, and improvement is something that we celebrate. So we're going to continue to lean in, we're going to continue to listen deeply, and we're going to grow stronger one conversation at a time. So, Anastasia, I will turn it over to you to begin these wonderful questions.
Thank you. So my first question is, why is giving feedback just as important as receiving it?
I mean, I'll tap in. I'll say giving feedback is important simply because we want to continue to help others grow as much as we want to grow. And sometimes, uh, how can I put it? It's up like we're often people who are givers, right? But we also love to receive, and so giving and receiving is a two-way street. So if we're able to receive constructive criticism, we should also be able to give it and give it fairly and honestly. So I think growth happens both ways. We learn how to communicate effectively when we're sharing opportunities for other people to grow, while also being able to receive it when somebody's giving it to us.
I agree. And I feel like it's so important to give that feedback is because like you can give somebody else a perspective that they would have never gone down if you didn't say anything. So let's say they come to you for feedback or like they ask you on an issue. You can give them your honest feedback without any biases, and it will give them maybe a new possible solution or a new way of looking at it to give them a solution to whatever they're trying to get feedback on, or give them ways to improve and look at it in a different way.
I think like you said, like it's like different perspectives and it gives you, like you said, like different solutions and able to come up with different ways to go about things.
I like those. I like those answers. I honestly read it as like, honestly, like you now get to see another perspective of giving advice, but it also gives you a better perspective of yourself because I don't like it when people receive feedback and when they finally have the opportunity to give feedback, they're kind of doing like an eye for an eye thing, or they try to say like, well, you did that to me, so I'm just giving it back to you. I think it's a good eye opener for somebody to realize like, okay, what they weren't saying wasn't rude, it wasn't mean, they weren't saying it intentionally, just like how I'm not saying it mean or intentionally. So, great responses. My second question is, what makes feedback respectful?
the way we say it. The way we say it, um, and not even like just how it comes out of our mouth, right? We also have to look at the body language that we're providing when we're giving that feedback too, because what our body displays and what comes out of our mouth can sometimes be two completely different things. So you can mean well when you're saying something, but your body language tells people otherwise. So I think that 100% matters. Um, in how we're going to give feedback, making sure that both align what we say verbally and what our body language is also displaying, I think matters a lot.
I agree, and I was also gonna say like our choice of wording, especially because just like you said, how we mean and how we come out can be two completely different things, and the body language can come out to, let's say, like being negatively, even though you're meaning to be constructive and not offensive, but it comes out offensive, and that's also part of the wording issue, because sometimes your wording can get misconstrued for other meanings, even though you mean something completely different, and they take it the wrong way. And now we have a whole other situation.
I think just being like respectful and no matter what you think or like what the advice is that you're gonna give, just being nice about it and saying it in like a respectful manner.
So, what do you do when a person twists your words or twist the narrative? How do you respond with that? But they're so adamant that that's how you meant it. So, if you say something like, I'm not trying to be rude, but I feel like your actions reflect, based on your actions, you're coming off as a bad influence as a friend. But they internalize that as, oh, you're just calling me a bad person. I don't deserve anybody. I don't deserve any friends. How do you approach that situation? Because that happens a lot when you give out feedback as respectful as you can. There's some people in this world that can twist what you say just because you're being truthful.
Go ahead, young man. I'm gonna let.
Nah, 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 nah. You got that. You got that. I'm gonna let you go first here.
Um, I feel like first understanding that people's feelings are their own, right? They're gonna feel how they feel, and we have to respect where they are and where they're coming from, right? Because it's their feeling. Also understanding that depending on the relationship you have with a person, when you're providing that feedback, you know them and they know you, if that makes sense. And so sometimes we understand a little bit, especially if it's a friend, we understand how our friends are going to react based on some of the things that we're going to say. And so we're able to kind of tailor our wording to help fit what we feel their mood would be when we give this information. But when it's someone that you don't know, right, and you're providing that feedback, or even like when we say constructive criticism, meaning you're trying to give them something that is potentially helpful, and they misconstrue what you said because they don't really know you, it will sometimes feel like they're being extremely defensive. Us as the person who's giving the feedback has to be willing to kind of step back and allow them that space to process those thoughts and feelings, but also being able to say, I don't mean disrespect when I'm sharing this with you. I'm simply sharing it because this is what I noticed and I want to help. So I'm coming from a place of help and not a place of harm. So being able to say that out loud is sometimes more helpful than just ignoring that someone is feeling a certain way, or ignoring that, um again, that they may have taken something out of context. Call it out, call it what it is, and allow them the space to process. And sometimes we even need the space to process too.
Look, I was gonna say the first thing we need to get is clarity, because I think we might have a misunderstanding. So I'm just gonna say, okay, this is not coming from me trying to be rude. This is not coming from me trying to offend you in any way. I'm just trying to be truthful and I'm trying to like protect your peace as much as I can mine so that we can have a clear understanding on what we mean here. Because like you said, your feelings are yours, absolutely. But what we're not gonna do is try to force a misunderstanding. We're going to be on the same wavelength and we're going to try to have the same message get across as intended in the best way that we can.
Okay, I like that. I definitely agree. I personally, whenever a person is like that, I always look at the bigger picture like, yeah, you just took what I said to heart because you know it's true. Because sometimes when they get like that, it's like, oh, yeah, you know it's true. I'll let you sit on that. I try not to take heart with it because I'm like, okay, it is what it is. Okay, so how can teens give feedback without sounding mean? And I know we just talked about this with how can you be respectful and how can a person, like, what do you do when a person twists your words? But when it comes to talking to adults, I know we deal with a lot of adults that say, stay in your lane, or, you can't talk to me that way. But sometimes adults would want to hear feedback. Adults sometimes have to hear feedback from kids, especially when they're teaching them or talking to them. So, teens, how can you give feedback to adults or mentors without sounding rude or with sounding out of lane?
I think just staying like calm and not even if like you don't like their answer, just keep being nice and say exactly what you want to say without like what they think is getting out of your lane or whatever. And I think yeah, just being respectful and no matter what they say, just remember what you wanted to tell them.
I agree, but you also have to be clear in what you say because a lot of the times adults will do the same things that teens will do. So you have to be able to construe your words in a manner that is both professional but also very clear so that they understand, okay, what is it you're trying to tell me? What is the message of this? What is the main point of the feedback? But also tell them, okay, this is what I would like to see improved. So like be very direct and clear without it being disrespectful or coming off as accusatory. Because I know for some teachers, uh, that kid deal with, they come off very rude and accusatory.
Listen, come on, team. I love both of your responses. And the only thing that I'm gonna add to that is to the adults. Because we also have to be able to listen, even if it's coming from a teen. And I feel like I love that question, Anastasia, because I feel like a lot of adults feel like they can't get constructive criticism from youth, or they get offended when it's coming from youth because we're supposed to be wise, right? And we're supposed to know better and we're supposed to know more than they know. But again, everything is a learning experience and everybody has knowledge in their own way, in their own right. And so I think constructive criticism, even coming from our youth, is important because sometimes as adults, the way we talk to youth, I'm gonna leave that alone. So So sometimes we as adults got to be checked too, right? And I love Abby. I love your perspective of saying, like, if I'm staying calm and I'm still sharing, like, I just want to be able to get my thought out and continue to share, like, what I feel is that piece of constructive criticism or giving even just simple feedback. And I think that's so important. But to my adults, just be willing to listen. Just be willing to listen and take it in.
100% agree. And I have a follow-up question. because y'all know I love hypotheticals. What do you do when the adult does not hear you and they lash out or they get offended and they just don't hear you? Like Abby said, you're coming off calm and you're being respectful. Lamar, like you said, you came off clear, you came off professional, but no matter how you say it, they still don't want to hear it because in their eyes, you're still a child. So, what do you do in that aspect? Because I know there's a lot of teens who try to speak to their mentors, teachers, parents, and sometimes they don't want to listen because they're still a child and they feel like they want to just give up, or they go back to the opposite of calm, cool, and collected and they match energy. So, what do you guys do in that predicament?
You got it. You can go.
No, 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 no. Go ahead. Go ahead. You got that. You got that.
Okay. I was gonna say that, like, for me, when that happens, I would just, like we said in the last question, just let them have some time to calm down and maybe like reflect on what they said. Just said, like my parents, for example, if like something like that were to happen, um, like a little bit later, they'd probably come to me and be like, "I'm sorry for how I acted, and like I do want to listen to you." So I think just giving them that time, because at the end of the day, they're still like, they don't know everything, just like we don't know everything, and we're all going through it together.
I like that. But now let's go back to these teachers because a lot of them sit in places of, I would call like academic authority in which they can insert their power into a group. And if they don't want to listen, leave them where they're at. Go to like the dean and maybe try to report that teacher for how they acted because if they lash out on you, that's most likely something you can report to maybe not only a dean, but like maybe send a report to like the district if you can, because I know a lot of districts have those kind of resources. So, report it, leave them where they're at. If you've tried repeatedly and it's the same thing every time, well, maybe definitely leave them where they're at because clearly they're not willing to listen and they're probably not going to be willing to listen. So just bring it up to a different person of power that can actually do something about it and see where that goes and give them time.
Perfect. Perfect. I like your responses. You guys are so mature. I love that. I love mature young adults. That always gets me because oof, it is hard sometimes when people try it. It can be hard. Okay. My next question is, why do I statements work? I feel like some could look at this as mm, like a Captain Obvious question. Like, of course, I statements work. Or some people could look at this as a cringy option. Like, why would I use I statements? But there's a plethora of uses of I statements, especially when you're in a position of either receiving feedback or giving feedback. And one of those I statements can be, I am bigger than this. I'm bigger than this, of course, but I can go about this the right way. It's not about me, it's not about them. I am not being rude. I'm going to be clear. I'm going to be honest. A lot of I statements when you say things like this. So, why do you think I statements work? Or you could even do a rebuttal. Why don't you think I statements work? I'm all for it.
I
I,
think, sorry, I think they work, and I think like when you're giving feedback, you could be like, I understand how you're feeling, or like, I understand you might think a certain way, and then I feel like that will help them feel like you understand them and not just feel like you're attacking them or like being rude, and that'll just ease them down and calm them down and not make them so like feeling like they're being attacked.
Very true. And I feel like using those I statements could be used not only in feedback, but like beforehand to prepare yourself and how you're going to come about giving that feedback. But like make sure, but if you're going to use those I statements in the feedback, you're like, okay, I believe this, and I believe that this can be better. And I believe that this curriculum is not going to work. So make sure they understand that it's mostly like you based, like you think it's not going to work, and it's not just them being attacked. And also, in combination with that, Abby, yes, do that right after you give that feedback because that's probably going to take away that attack factor from there because I know a lot of people get offended at that kind of feedback.
I love that question, and I love what both of you said. And the only thing that I will add when it comes to an I statements help take away blame, right? So normally when people are talking, and especially sometimes when we're giving feedback, we're typically saying, you did this, or this is what I observed about you. When we start using I statements, we take away the word you because we're saying, hey, I observed earlier that when there was a customer doing X, Y, and Z, I noticed like the conversation kind of shifted. So you're now explaining it without pointing a finger and saying, you did blah 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 blah, or you like, it takes away that defensive mechanism that most people will have because they can't argue with what you feel, right? They can't argue with what your opinion is because it's your opinion. All they can argue is whether they want to take it or not, right? But now it lessens the way that people get offended when you start to use I statements because it's coming from you as your opinion, or it's coming from you as what you think or what you feel, versus it feeling like an accusatory statement or something that they have to automatically defend. That's why I think I statements work really well. But I will say I statements are not always easy because oftentimes, especially when we talk about constructive criticism and feedback, when we're having those conversations, a lot of times it shifts right into you. And it shifts into you because we're stating what we observed that someone else did, right? So it's like, okay, you weren't listening when they said X, Y, and Z, or you weren't taking notes. And I noticed that you blah blah blah. So you will come up a lot, which is why they feel offended or defensive. And so practicing I statements is critical. And just like everything else, right? It's a skill that we learn over time. So I think practicing how to use I statements, especially in moments like that, is crucial.
100% agree. 100% agree. I was glad that you guys all believe in I statements because I'm an I statement person all the time. Yes, Abby, I definitely agree. Those I statements take down the blame and the pointing fingers. It's a it's a it's a big, I guess, sign, or it shows that you have accountability for yourself, even if you don't even have to take accountability. Shows like accountability for you. Okay, my next question is, what role does empathy play? I feel like a lot of people take empathy and just throw it around everywhere. We don't have to be empathetic to everybody in every situation. Sometimes you have to have, how do you say, discernment, or you have to have that instinct of, I think you're playing with me, or I think you're lying. So, how does that play a role?
See, sometimes you just gotta be suspicious with people. Sometimes you just gotta take what they're saying, take it with a grain of salt, and then look back at it later and say, okay, how would I know that this is true? Are they trustworthy? Because sometimes when people say things, they are not being trustworthy and they are not being completely honest, and you can tell. Especially when it comes to body language. That body language will tell you 1,000 words without it saying a thing. So being a little bit suspicious of somebody is completely fine. What you have to do is be able to kind of prove it and have kind of a precedent when it comes to that, because not everybody is worth being like suspicious towards, but some people are most definitely need to be a side eye to when they say something.
Right. So, but how do you put the empathy in there for the people who are not like that? Because there's some people who are, they'll give you the same sob story and you can detect which one is which. But when it comes to like you giving feedback or with you receiving feedback, how does that empathy play in there?
So you gotta take it with a grain of salt, but then like look at the aspects. Okay, I can empathize with this, yes, but how can I tell? Like me knowing this person, because clearly I might know this person. How do I know they would react in the situation? And then you have to empathize with that and kind of match it up to what they actually said. Because that can play a real role. With someone lying, you know they lying. Or like if you know they're not lying, but you're not kind of sure, you got to match up their actions to the words.
Oh, go ahead, Abby. Go ahead.
I think empathy could let you like understand where they're coming from, even if it's like it's not what you expected to hear or not like what you believe. It still allows you to understand why they're saying what they're saying or why they believe what they believe.
See, I love y'all's responses, and you know I gotta clap back. So it starts with understanding the difference between empathy and sympathy. So, Anastasia, I heard you loud and clear, because my girl was like, you can't be passing your empathy out to everybody, but actually you can. Everybody should hold some form of empathy, because empathy is just you having the ability to understand somebody else. That's all it is. It is not you pitying what they're going through, right? That's sympathy. So understanding the difference between empathy and sympathy is the first thing that you would want to recognize. So when you're having a conversation with them, are you being more sympathetic or are you being more empathetic? Because empathetic is just saying that you understand how you would want to be treated if you was in that same situation. That's your empathy. But are you saying when you're with them, oh my goodness, I feel so bad because now they're crying. Because we know that's the one that always comes up, and then it starts tugging at your heartstrings, and now you got pity. So now you have sympathy for them, not necessarily putting yourself in their shoes to understand that you need to have this crucial conversation. So in that moment of sympathy, you start to back down. And now you don't want to say what you really came to say. And so, yes, empathy is definitely needed and necessary when you're having conversations on constructive criticism and feedback, because people are always going to take it differently. But how would you want to be talked to if you were sitting in that seat? How would you want to hear it if it was you sitting on the other side? Think about how you yourself would receive it. And then how would you want someone to soften the blow? Or how would you want someone to just give it to you straight up? So put yourself in other people's positions by simply understanding what they may be feeling when you're having that conversation. So I think empathy is a key piece in everything that we do, no matter where we are and no matter who we're with. We should always have empathy and just remember what it means to sit in that position.
Oh, that was such a good food for thought. I'm gonna put that down in my journal tonight. Thank you. I really like that. Yeah, that is a big difference, empathy and sympathy. And I think we get those confused. We really do. I myself get that confused. Like, dang, am I being sympathetic or empathetic? I'm an empath, guys, so I'm empathetic all the time. And I feel like sometimes when I give feedback and they become defensive and it gets to a point where I sometimes can't be the mature person, I shut down and I just say, well, do you? I'm not going to talk to you for a couple weeks, no shade. Okay. Next question. Oh, this one's a really thinker. This is a big thinker. Okay. Oof. What is the difference between honesty and harshness? I know we talked about it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But sometimes when people talk in a calm and professional voice, it can sometimes feel like you're reading me in the most professional way possible. So if you tell me like, yeah, I think you have poor communication and you're not really that good when it comes to doing deliverables, I will be hurt. Like, "Oh, okay." And they'll be like, yeah, you're not that good. But they don't give no other like, but you could do better. They'll just be like, you just aren't good. And, you can work on that. Even though they sounded very calm and professional, that was a little bit harsh. Like, okay, you could have said that a little bit better. So what's the difference? Because I feel like a lot of people don't see that.
I think the difference is that you can like when you're just harsh, you're not giving any like solution or even saying anything nice at all. But if you're not harsh, you could just say something nice along with what you said. So like you were saying, like they could have added, but you are good at this other thing, or so that way they don't just feel like I said in the other thing, like just attacked.
Bring the positive to the negative. Yes. Again, I love that you said it's not just what we say, it's how we say it. And along with that body language, though, because that body language shows what your intentions along with that tone. Because your tone can be very mean. So sometimes you got to reel it back. Reel it back because the aggressiveness is not it. So we have to be able to kind of recognize if we're being harsh, be able to take that feedback if they do think we're being harsh and they end up like saying it and being able to communicate to us that kind of fact and be able to listen along with taking that feedback and improve while attempting to say what we were going to say before.
All of that. All of that. See, I don't even got nothing to add because of all of that, what they said, yep, y'all heard them.
100% agree. 100% agree. Always bring the positive. Always tell somebody you're doing good. Problems, but you're doing good. Nobody's perfect. I love that because this is where Abby brought in the empathy. When you just say you are not good in X, Y, and Z, and that is that, you have no empathy. Oh my goodness, you can't tell me like here are the things I am good at, because that can make a person shut down. Or when giving feedback and advice, sometimes giving that, they probably will not ask you for advice again, ever. Okay. So, next question. This is for my YPA, my president and my vice president, even though you guys are on here. How do leaders give effective feedback? I know we are going to be having some upcoming members, and there are going to be some that are going to be sticklers. So, how do you give them effective feedback that you know they'll take with them?
Um, Giving the feedback, like you have to make sure that you tell them what will come out of it and what everyone will gain from it, not just the people that they're telling or not just themselves. So that they see that everything that they do has an effect on everyone and there is a purpose for everything.
All the things we've said today, like being able to use our body language, being able to use our tone, having empathy to give that feedback on what we see so far. And like you said, Abby, telling them what the commitment truly is, being able to tell them, okay, these traits are good for this. What we need to work on is this. Being clear, being able to be like not harsh, but having that empathy so we can actually work on improving it instead of just telling them, okay, yeah, no.
Okay, those are good responses, very good responses. And so follow up would be how does that feedback strengthen the team altogether?
It allows everyone to be on the same page and for everyone to know what we're working towards and like the people that we're trying to affect and improve on and everything.
It shows that we can actually like tell each other things and communicate effectively to the whole team and being able to work on the team with observations and see what we can improve, not just as us, but also working together.
Okay, I can agree. I believe that when giving feedback, that not only shows that you care for that person when you're in a team, but it helps strengthens the team altogether because when you give them specific feedback, they can think about their actions and how they move forward when it comes to doing assignments or speaking to the group. It really does help. So let's get into this one. Can avoiding feedback actually damage relationships? If so, how?
Absolutely. That's a hard yes. And that's because if you avoid feedback, you're avoiding what they're trying to say. That means you're avoiding clear communication with that. And not only that, you're avoiding something that could possibly help you and move the relationship forward. You're avoiding something that can actually like help you in the future, not just with them, but with other people if that relationship ends up coming to a close. It gives you a deeper understanding, not just of this person, but of yourself, because clearly they have a different perspective of you that you can kind of take into you and like use to benefit yourself.
I gotta say, I love, love, love those responses because it's 100% true, right? When we think about avoiding the tough conversations, it does. You can definitely ruin a whole friendship and relationship by avoiding giving feedback. Why? Because then it's going to build anger and resentment. So a lot of times we'll hold on to a thing like it's a problem to us. And instead of giving that constructive feedback, we're just holding it, right? And that becomes really hard because it's kind of like when you hear that shaking soda bottle theory, right? You just keep shaking the soda bottle, you keep shaking the soda bottle, and eventually when you open that top, it explodes. The more you hold in being able to give someone feedback, and even think it can work both ways. You can hold feedback to the point that it builds up inside of you and you become angry every time you see that person. It happens with supervisors and employees. I don't want to have this conversation with my employee, so I'm just going to hold on to it. And then all of a sudden, that one day, the supervisor explodes on the employee because they never had the conversation about the things that the employee was doing wrong. And now it makes the employee feel some type of way, right? But it also makes the supervisor look some type of way because you just exploded on an employee without never giving them a chance to even fix the problem because you avoided it. But now let's flip the script. When we choose not to have conversations about constructive feedback or even just giving that little piece of constructive criticism, we slow down somebody else's growth. So the opportunity and the chance for them to become better, they now don't have because we chose to hoard information and not share it to help them be better. So that can also damage a relationship because now when you come to tell me and you're telling me months down the road, I'm looking at you like, why you didn't tell me this 3 months ago? And I could have been working on this all along and fixing it and bettering myself. So now I'm going to look at you like, do you really got my best interest? should I really be listening to you? So yes, it can damage relationships and it works on both sides.
I definitely agree. And I love how we got deeper with it because sometimes that is how it goes. On one end, if you take forever to give me that feedback, I feel like you built that up. And I feel like you were trying to bring it up when I really didn't want to hear that right now. Like I had so much going on in my life. Now you want to tell me this? I'm looking at you kind of weird. Or when things are going good, it's kind of like you should just set it in the moment. But w- why do you guys think people struggle, especially teens? Why do you guys think teens struggle to give honest feedback, even when it's heated? Do you guys think that they are honestly scared of reactions? Do you think that it's because they don't want to come off like overbearing or stern? Or you know how you always have that one friend group that's a know-it-all? They don't want to be a know-it-all. So, do you guys think it's a internal thing or is just something that they just went through over and over? Or could it be both?
I think that it's they're scared of a reaction and maybe not getting the response that they wanted. And also, like, if someone doesn't like their response, and let's say they like stop being friends, then maybe they're scared of not being friends with that person anymore and not having anyone anymore. So they'd rather just be quiet about it and not say anything to not risk that friendship.
I feel like it's a combination of both internal and external factors because, people are complex. They have multiple reasons for withholding things. So it could be like they're afraid of the reaction, they're afraid of damaging something and coming off as disrespectful, and that kind of damages the friendship on its own. But they're also scared because they know that you and this person have been through a lot, and they don't want to come off as like stress inducing or like come off as more added stress to what's already going on.
Good, good. Okay. Okay, so well, no, since we're wrapping up on this month, I feel like we've gotten a lot of good questions when it comes to feedback. So I have a good couple wraps up with this. What's one communication habit everyone should start practicing today and for the rest of your life?
I don't mind starting us off. I'm gonna go with understanding empathy and where you would want to sit in that equation if it were you receiving it. So I think that is something that can stick with people no matter where they are. Whether you are the supervisor, whether you are the CEO, whether you are just the employee, whether you're the teen looking for a job, whether you're a teen in a group atmosphere, no matter where you are in life, understanding empathy is important and giving feedback and receiving it.
Using empathy after you understand it. Using that empathy in clear communication in the form of I statements. Shift that blame away and just tell them directly without coming off as rude.
I think staying respectful, whether it's something that you didn't want to hear or when it's giving feedback and as well as receiving it.
I like these I statements, empathy, respect. Honestly, I would probably keep it positive with any conversation, whether they're mad, just keep it positive. Y'all know I like to say no shade, and that always works for me. So I would definitely say I would keep that in my regimen. And also reading books that talk about feedback and communication. I think those really help, especially when you feel like you have nobody to talk to. Unfortunately, we're surrounded by people sometimes who aren't really good listeners or give good advice. So we need some type of outlet to help us with that. Thankfully, this foundation has many resources and also books that can help you when it comes to communicating and finding ways to calm yourself down when giving and receiving feedback. So, we've been talking all month about feedback, how to hear it, how to apply it, and how to use it to grow instead of shut down. But growth doesn't happen when someone critiques you. It happens when you choose responsibilities or opportunities that stretch you. So now we're turning it over to one of our youth program ambassadors to share how you can step into growth for yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Abigail Robles, a proud youth program ambassador with Steps Foundation. Constructive feedback can be uncomfortable, but it's one of the fastest ways to level up. And that's what being a youth program ambassador has taught me. In this program, you'll learn how to speak confidently, how to accept feedback without taking it personally, how to advocate for issues that matter, and how to turn ideas into action. And the best part, you don't have to be perfect to join. You just have to be willing to grow. Open enrollment for the 2026 to 2027 school year is now open. If you want to strengthen your leadership skills, build your resume, develop real confidence, and make an impact in your community, this is for you. Applications close on March 31st, so act now. And while you're planning ahead, here's what else is coming up. There's The Color of You on April 11th at 12 p.m., which is a creative space to explore mental health through art and conversation. And then Virtual Suspects and Secrets fundraiser on April 18th at 12 p.m. And that's where you put your detective skills to work in an interactive murder mystery with prizes included. Feedback helps you grow. Leadership helps you apply it. So if you're ready to challenge yourself, stretch yourself, and become the next version of you, we're waiting. Register at www.stepsfoundation.org/events and follow at Steps Foundation Inc. for updates.
All right, all right. Feedback isn't a flaw. It's a gift. And like any gift, sometimes it's not wrapped the way we expect. Learning how to hear it, reflect on it, and grow from it takes courage, humility, and strength. This month, we really have leaned into the conversations about constructive feedback, listening without defensiveness, and turning insight into action, and also giving feedback with respect. Because growth doesn't happen by accident, it happens when we're willing to learn. Handling feedback with grace isn't about being perfect, it's about being open. And it's about choosing progress over pride, reflection over reaction, and improvement over insecurity. So, as you guys continue to move forward, please remember this: you are not broken because you are still learning. You are not weak because you need guidance. And you are not behind because you're growing at your own pace. Growth can feel uncomfortable. It can definitely stretch us wide, but it can challenge what you thought you knew. And every time you listen with intention, reflect with honesty, and take action with courage, you're building something super powerful. Now, to close us out, I'm Abigail Ellis, and it's been an honor wrapping up this meaningful conversation with you, especially for the whole month. So thank you guys for being a part of Talk Tuesday this month. Remember, the power of positivity is always within you. Until next time, I want you to continue to stay strong, stay curious, stay true to yourself, stay inspired, and stay empowered. And remember, we want you to continue to keep leading the way. So we will see you guys next month for another round of Talk Tuesday.